Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Insights. Today, we will explore the life of one of Japan's most mysterious figures, Emperor Hirohito. He was Japan's longest-serving emperor, leading his country through peace, war, and great change. Many people still wonder who he really was. Was he a peaceful man who loved science, or a powerful leader during World War II? This story is not only about history and leadership, it is also a chance to practice your English listening and reading skills with a real and meaningful topic. Now, let's get started. Part 1. Early Life and Royal Education. Emperor Hirohito was born in 1901 in Tokyo, Japan. He was the first son of Crown Prince Yoshihito, who later became Emperor Taisho and Empress Taimi. From the moment he was born, Hirohito was treated very differently from other children. He lived in a big palace, surrounded by teachers, guards, and servants. His life was planned carefully because everyone knew that, one day, he would become the next emperor of Japan. When Hirohito was only 3 years old, he was separated from his parents and sent to a special place to be raised and educated. This was a common tradition for royal children in Japan. His teachers taught him how to behave like a prince, to speak politely, sit properly, and respect older people. He also learned about Japanese history, culture, and traditions. As a student, Hirohito showed great interest in learning. He was quiet and serious, but also very curious. He liked studying science, especially animals and plants. Even as a young boy, he enjoyed collecting small sea creatures and watching how they lived. This early love for nature would stay with him for the rest of his life. During his teenage years, Hirohito studied at the Peers School, a school for the sons of nobles and royals. He learned about politics, military studies, and international relations. His teachers wanted him to understand the modern world because Japan was becoming stronger and more connected with other countries. He also practiced sports, horseback riding, and calligraphy. In 1921, when he was 20 years old, Hirohito made his first trip abroad. He visited many European countries, including the United Kingdom, France, and Italy. It was the first time a Japanese crown prince had ever traveled outside Asia. This trip opened his eyes to new cultures and modern ideas. He saw how European kings lived and ruled, and he wanted to bring some of those ideas back to Japan. By the time he returned home, Hirohito was ready to take on more responsibility. People described him as intelligent, calm, and polite, a man who respected both old traditions and modern thinking. His education had prepared him not only to be a ruler, but also to understand the world beyond Japan's borders. Part 2. Becoming the Emperor. In 1926, Emperor Taisho, Hirohito's father, passed away. At that time, Hirohito was only 25 years old. After a short mourning period, he officially became Emperor of Japan. His rule was called the Shōwa era, which means enlightened peace. Many people hoped this new era would bring stability and progress to the country. Japan in the 1920s was very different from today. The country was growing quickly and becoming more modern. Factories, trains, and big cities were changing daily life. But Japan also faced political problems and conflicts with other nations. As a young emperor, Hirohito had to balance tradition with change. He needed to respect Japan's long history while leading the country into the modern world. At first, Hirohito did not have complete power. In Japan's political system, the emperor was seen as a symbol of the nation. Real decisions were often made by government officials and military leaders. Still, his words and actions were very important to the people. Many Japanese saw him as a living god, a person chosen by heaven to lead the country. This belief gave Hirohito great influence, even if he did not control everything directly. As the new emperor, Hirohito worked hard to understand the problems facing Japan. He met with ministers, read reports, and studied international news. He wanted Japan to grow stronger, but also peaceful. However, at that time, the military had become very powerful. Many generals believed that Japan needed to expand and take new lands in Asia. They thought this was the only way to protect the nation's future. Hirohito's role became more difficult. He had to represent the dreams of the Japanese people, but also deal with the ambitions of the army. He often stayed calm and quiet in public, showing little emotion. Some people saw him as gentle and careful, while others thought he was too passive. Even historians today still debate how much control he truly had over the government's decisions during those early years. In the late 1920s and early 1930s, Japan faced economic troubles and rising tension with other countries. Many people looked to the emperor for hope. He became a strong national symbol, someone who could unite the people. Hirohito often appeared in traditional dresses, attending ceremonies, and speaking about loyalty and peace. To the public, he seemed both distant and divine, but also a father figure to the nation. By the time Japan entered the 1930s, Hirohito had gained more experience as a ruler. He had learned how to work with political and military leaders, how to speak carefully, and how to protect his image. But the world around him was changing fast. Soon, new challenges would test his leadership and define his place in history. Part 3. Hirohito. and World War II. During the 1930s, Japan became more aggressive in Asia. The military wanted to control more land and resources. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, a region in China, and later continued to expand. Many Japanese believed that their country had a special mission to lead Asia. The government and newspapers supported this idea, and the emperor's image was often used to inspire soldiers and citizens. Emperor Hirohito was the head of state during this time, but his real power is still a question. Some historians say he agreed with the military's actions, while others believe he had little control. In public, Hirohito rarely spoke against the army. He gave speeches that encouraged loyalty and national pride. For ordinary Japanese people, his calm face on posters and in news films became a symbol of unity and strength. When World War II began in 1939, Japan joined the Axis powers with Germany and Italy. 2 years later, in 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. This event brought the United States into the war. For many Japanese, the emperor's approval seemed to give the war a holy purpose. Soldiers went into battle believing they were fighting for their divine ruler and their country's honor. Hirohito continued to live in his palace during the war. He received reports about battles and met military leaders. Some documents suggest he asked questions about Japan's chances of winning. However, it is unclear how much influence he had over the decisions. The army held most of the power, and many officers acted on their own. As the war continued, Japan began to suffer heavy losses. Cities were destroyed by bombings, and millions of people lost their homes. Still, the government told citizens to fight until the end. Hirohito appeared on radio programs to encourage courage and unity, though his voice was rarely heard directly by the public. In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The destruction was massive and shocking. For the first time in history, Emperor Hirohito decided to speak directly to his people. On August 15, 1945, his voice was broadcast across Japan. In a calm and sad tone, he told his citizens that Japan would surrender. He asked them to stay united and to accept peace. Many people cried when they heard his voice. It was the first time they had ever heard their emperor speak. After Japan's surrender, the war was finally over. Hirohito's image began to change. He was no longer seen only as a godlike figure, but also as a human being who had led his nation through tragedy. The next chapter of his life would be about survival, rebuilding, and finding a new role in a peaceful Japan. Part 4: The Emperor After the War. When World War II ended in 1945, Japan was completely destroyed. Many cities were gone, and millions of people were poor and hungry. The country was under the control of the Allied forces, led by the United States. At that time, many people around the world thought Emperor Hirohito would be punished for Japan's actions during the war. However, something unexpected happened. The American general in charge, Douglas MacArthur, decided to keep Hirohito on the throne. He believed that the emperor could help Japan stay calm and rebuild peacefully. If Hirohito was removed, MacArthur feared that chaos might spread. So instead of being arrested, the emperor became part of a new plan to turn Japan into a peaceful and democratic country. In 1946, Hirohito made an important speech on the radio. In this message, he told the Japanese people that he was not a god. He said he was a human being, just like everyone else. This speech shocked many citizens because for generations they had believed that the emperor had divine power. Still, most people continued to respect him deeply. They saw him as a symbol of the nation's spirit and unity. During the years after the war, Hirohito changed his image. He began to travel across Japan, visiting cities that had been destroyed. He met farmers, students, and factory workers. He spoke kindly to them and listened to their problems. Many people were surprised to see the emperor smiling and shaking hands. These visits helped rebuild trust and gave the people hope. Hirohito also supported the new Japanese constitution, which started in 1947. This law said that the emperor would have no political power. He would only be a symbol of Japan and its people. The new constitution also promised peace, saying that Japan would never again start a war. For the rest of his life, Hirohito followed this peaceful role. He focused on education, science, and rebuilding the country. His calm and quiet personality helped the people move forward from the pain of war. Although his past was complex, he became a steady figure in a time of great change. By the 1950s, Japan was growing again. The cities were rebuilding, the economy was improving, and people were starting to feel proud of their country once more. And through it all, Emperor Hirohito remained a symbol of continuity, a leader who had witnessed both the darkest and brightest moments in Japan's history. Part 5. The Personal Side of Hirohito. Behind the title of emperor, Hirohito was also a man with simple habits and quiet interests. Many people around the world see him as a serious and distant figure, but those who knew him said he was polite, calm, and sometimes even shy. He did not show strong emotions in public, but with his family, he could be warm and gentle. Hirohito married Princess Nagako, who later became Empress Kojun in 1924. Their marriage was arranged, as was common in royal families at that time. However, people said they had a respectful and caring relationship. Together, they had 7 children, 2 sons, and 5 daughters. The oldest son, Akihito, would later become the next emperor of Japan. Family was very important to Hirohito, and he liked spending quiet evenings with his wife and children whenever he could. One of Hirohito's greatest passions was marine biology, the study of sea life. Even as a young man, he loved observing fish and collecting shells. After the war, when he had fewer political duties, he spent more time doing scientific research. He built a small laboratory inside the imperial palace and worked there regularly. He studied jellyfish, coral, and tiny sea animals under a microscope. He even wrote several research papers that were published in scientific journals. His studies were so respected that professional scientists often visited him to discuss their work. Hirohito's love for science showed a different side of his personality. It revealed his curiosity and patience. Many people were surprised to learn that the emperor, once seen as a godlike ruler, could spend hours quietly watching sea creatures. This peaceful hobby helped him relax and stay calm, especially after the difficult years of the war. Outside of science, Hirohito enjoyed horseback riding, walking in the palace gardens, and listening to traditional Japanese music. He liked to keep a regular routine and preferred simple meals. He was not very interested in luxury, even though he lived in a palace. His life followed old traditions, but he also accepted modern changes, especially when it came to education and technology. People who met him said he was very polite and humble. He listened carefully and spoke softly. When he visited schools or factories, he often thanked people for their hard work. Many citizens admired his modest way of living and his quiet strength. Even though he was the emperor, he tried to act more like a servant of the people rather than their master. In private, Hirohito was known to be thoughtful and serious. He sometimes wrote down his feelings in journals, though these writings were kept secret for many years. Friends said he often reflected on Japan's past and felt the heavy responsibility of his position. He once said that being emperor was not about power, but about duty, a duty to guide and protect the people of Japan. Through his quiet actions and personal interests, Hirohito showed that leadership can come in many forms, not only through power or speeches, but also through patience, kindness, and learning. Part 6. Legacy and the Modern Japan. Emperor Hirohito passed away in 1989 after more than 60 years on the throne. His long reign saw both great tragedy and great progress. He had lived through wars, destruction, and then the rebuilding of a peaceful and modern Japan. When he died, millions of Japanese people felt deep sadness. For many of them, he had been the only emperor they had ever known. Hirohito's legacy is complex. Some people remember him as the leader who ruled during World War II and believe he should have taken more responsibility for Japan's actions. Others see him as a symbol of peace, a man who helped his country recover after the war. Even today, historians continue to debate his real role in the events of the 1930s and 1940s. In modern Japan, most people view Hirohito with respect, but also with realism. They understand that he lived in a very different time. Textbooks describe both his achievements and the difficult parts of his reign. Young people learn about him not only as a historical figure, but also as a lesson about leadership, responsibility, and change. The current Japanese imperial family, led by his grandson Emperor Naruhito, continues to follow the peaceful path that Hirohito helped create. The emperor no longer has political power, but he still plays an important role as a symbol of unity and culture. Many traditions that started during Hirohito's time, such as public visits, charity work, and communication with ordinary citizens, remain part of the royal family's duties today. In museums and documentaries, Hirohito is often shown as a man between two worlds: the old Japan of emperors and samurai, and the new Japan of democracy and technology. His life reminds people that change can be painful, but also necessary. Although opinions about him may differ, one thing is clear: Hirohito's story cannot be separated from Japan's story. He was not only a ruler, but also a witness to his country's transformation. His long life connects the past and the present, showing how Japan moved from war to peace, from isolation to global respect. Today, when people look back at his time, they see both mistakes and lessons. And through it all, Emperor Hirohito remains a quiet symbol of Japan's journey from darkness to light.